Good morning. It's Tuesday, August 4th, 2015. S&P 500 futures continuing the weakness we saw yesterday, down almost 0.2%. Look at the sell-off we had midday. A lot of that had to do with Apple. Apple, the largest company in the world by market cap, had a significant decline, almost 3% yesterday. Although late in the trading day, we had a sharp rally to mitigate some of those losses, consolidated overnight. Had a little bit of a pullback here after European markets open, and we'll see if we can gather some momentum for a move to the upside. If you look, last week, similar type start to the week. Monday was a rather sharp decline, selling to the downside, and yet Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday we recovered those losses and then some. A pretty strong end to the week. See if we can start off Tuesday on the right foot. Right now, not looking so good, but a couple things to watch again. First of all, we're going to watch Apple because Apple is going to dictate where this market heads short term. You can see this morning, I'll pull up the 1 minute chart, hit a low of 117.25. That's below yesterday's lows. See if we can gather some momentum to get back up over the 120 level this week. That'll be something to watch. Also, the U.S. dollar index. Don't want to see this appreciate too much. And actually, it's pulling back here. It's down over 0.25%. So that's a good thing. The bond market. Got to watch the bond market because it continues to appreciate. Look, we have a nice little pullback here this morning. TLT, the 20-year bond treasury ETF. We can look at 30-year bond treasury futures also. And you can see that's pulling back. We had a little bit of bounce there, but down over 0.25%. So that's something to watch. Also, we have earnings reports out this morning. Look at Coach reporting earnings, and the initial reaction was to the downside, but look at it blast off here. Could a possible bottom be in? Bring up a chart first of Apple. You can see in the whole context of the move we've had since the last 10 years, since 2005, really not that much of a pullback, right? We have new all-time record highs, been consolidating through much of 2015. Pulling back a little bit, so I would say the bullish outlook for Apple still intact. You want to look at a company that's been pulling back. Look at Coach. And if you pull up a long-term chart, draw some trend lines there, you can see Coach is at pretty significant support down under the 30 level this morning. Bounced off of it. Look at it up and over to 32. We can see long-term trend line resistance here at 42. So it's something to keep an eye on for Coach. This might be a play, a bottom play. The dividend's still intact, and they reported numbers that were better than expected. Tesla reports earnings this week. I believe it's today after the bell. You can see, is this a consolidation phase here? Where you could draw a trend line across, would be supported about 185. And the breakout level would be the new all-time record highs, would be about 300. Analysts this morning out pretty positive, saying buy Tesla into earnings, although for the most part, it's pretty negative action from the analysts and financial media and bloggers out there talking about Tesla being overvalued. How about dust? Precious metals been pulling back. We have the gold miners pulling back. FCX with gold and copper miner pulling back to 2009 lows, and you can see dust here. It needs to break out if you draw a trend line across here. Otherwise, it's going to head back to support, which would imply weakness for the U.S. dollar and also strength here for gold, which looks, is this a bear flag here forming, or is this some sort of a bottom here at 105? It's been one of those things where once it starts to fall, nobody was really talking about it much up here. Actually, everybody's talking about how you need to have gold in your portfolio. And now we're down here. It's like, how can gold hit $20? Up here, it's like, it's got to have it. It's going to quadruple in our next 5 years. And down here, it's like, who in their right mind was buying gold up here? No, not me. So we'll see if gold can get a little bit of a bounce here. And also crude oil, something to watch. You can see the breakdown. This is multi-year low for crude oil. You pull up a chart for crude oil, pull up a long-term chart. And I put this up at the blog at optionmillionaires.com, also on Twitter. Go to the 20-year weekly chart, and you see you draw a trend line right across. We're right at support here. And actually, crude is up almost 2% this morning. We're starting to get a bounce, so this could be the start of something. We're going to get another bottom like we had back in March. We had this W bottom. We're going to form one of those, a bounce, pull back, bounce before we go, which would be a really nice W bottom. And again, same thing with crude now. Why is it going to 20? Up here at the highs or even back last June when it was over $100 a barrel. Like, why crude oil is going to 170? And then once it starts to decline, it's like, why it's going to 20? So maybe the bottom is in for crude, at least in the short term. And again, we've got to watch the U.S. dollar index. A lot of things going on. Of course, demand is shrinking. There's a reason behind it. One thing we really got to watch for is the Energy ETF XLE, which continues to dive to the downside. Look at this. Earlier this year, I brought this up, broke through long-term trend line support on a couple levels here, continues to grind lower. You draw a trend line across, maybe you get a little support here. We get a bounce, but looks very ominous for a move to continue to the downside. And this is what a trend looks like when it's broken, right? This is a trend. The trend is broken. We had a nice trend from 2009. It is now broken. And that's why it's tough here to call a top for the S&P 500. Does this trend look like it's broken to you in spite of the weakness that we're seeing? This still looks like consolidation to me that could break to the upside, which I think is going to be the case, but I could be wrong. I could be crazy. And we'll see if we do get a pullback and the trend starts to break. Yeah, I'll be more bearish on pretty much every name under the sun. But for now, to me, as we consolidate here, this trend remains to the upside. All right, UBB here, optionmillionaires.com. I'll see you in the chat room. A lot of unusual option action going on these days. Setting up, we had a buyout today. Of course, love to see the buyouts. And the prior day, some unusual option action pointing to that move before the rest of us knew about it. But all right, I'll see you in the chat room. Have a great trading day. UPB here. Goodbye.